Hi guys, today I'm here to share with you a project that I have been working up to working with some of these iron orchid design molds, Horse and Hound, and Oak Leaves and Acorns. And we're going to be making a faux fireplace mantle piece. And it's taken me about 6 months to get the courage to do this, so I'm going to do this with you today. Start it anyway. Okay, so I have just a brush. I have some cornstarch here and some clay and our molds. And so we're gonna just start to make some molds. I absolutely love these acorns and these leaves. There's two sizes. This mold just came out this summer. This mold I love. These two little leaves here are like my favorite, and these small acorn clusters. And then we've got some larger acorns here and some larger leaves. And so the plan is to make this cluster that like a swag type of a thing to go on the front of my a faux fireplace that I have. And so we've got some clay here and some cornstarch, and I'm going to just dust a couple of these up, and we're going to get ready to make our little molds. Okay, this has taken me a long time to get the courage to do this. I haven't worked with these molds very much, but they're really pretty, and I just am going to take off a piece of this clay, and it's pretty wet and it's very soft. And just going to start making some molds and see where this project is going to go. I have a big plans in my mind, so we'll see if it actually, you know, how it goes. And so there's our little mold, little leaf, and I've played around with these before, made a bunch, and just didn't have the courage to get into it. So I am going to just make a few of these so we can start to play around with them. See how pretty that is? Really pretty. This is a really lovely clay. It's very soft, and these molds are really nice to work with. And there's another one, really pretty. This clay is very nice, and I have found that it's really wet when it first comes out of the package. Of course, it can dry out, so you want to make sure you keep it, you know, in a Ziploc or some kind of airtight container after you've gotten into it, so that it doesn't dry out on you, because it is air dry clay. But when, you know, just like when you first start working with cookie dough or something, it's kind of more wet. You need to dust it with flour. Well, this is with cornstarch. In the mold, they say to do it, but I also find I'll dip my clay right into my cornstarch and roll it around a little, and just to help absorb some of that initial moisture right when, you know, you take it out of the package. So that's just me, but once it's a little drier, it's a little easier to get it in your... Okay, so I've worked on making, you know, some little pieces to begin with here, and I want to just, you know, make a couple of these leaves to show you that. Okay, there's one. Here is another one. And with these two, these little leaves are like my favorite to work with because they're just so cute. And when you pull these out, the little bit of curl or bend that they have from, you know, rolling them out of the mold is kind of adds to the movement of the look. And I like, so you can see underneath there, you can see a little bit of light and how that's curled and lifting up from the table. What I have to say about that is use that to your advantage, okay? In this particular project, I'm using that to my advantage anyway. So I've made little bits and pieces with our molds, and for time, okay, so what I kind of want to start with is this. This is the center. Going to be, I'm kind of using this as my center starting point. This cluster right here, you can see, is this. So you can sort of see it there, okay? This branch and these 3 acorns. One of them, it broke off on me, and that's okay. I've got a lot of pieces I can piece together. So I'm thinking about starting, just moving those out of the way. And I'm thinking about starting this with a few of the leaves from the larger mold. Okay, now this is just play with these, and I've played with these, and you know, just trying to work with something here. And so I'm starting with this as like a little bit of a beginning, okay? And then I would just start taking leaves, and I'm going to start laying these on top, and kind of piecing and, you know, wiggling things around and making it work. So this is just a practice board that I've got, and kind of like that. And I'm just going to, you know, right angles are in nature. There are not many right angles, so these are swaying in the wind and blowing, and we want just a focal point to start with. And so I don't want mine to be at a right angle, okay? So I'm just going to start playing with this and seeing what works for me. And how I'm going to use this stuff, I'm not quite sure, but like just play with it. And this, the way this leaf is here, they overlap and lay together very nicely. And taking this simple little cluster and just adding to it, you know, gives it a lot of movement. And so this is just playtime, okay? Take your molds, play with them, try to make something flow the way that it would naturally, and see what you can come up with. That's all I'm doing here. We need like a branch and some stems and things. few of those. So you don't have to use, you guys know that, but you don't have to use the full leaf. You don't have to use things as they were intended so much as just to kind of stick that under there, and then we'll just cover that and make it look like a continuation of a branch from somewhere. And guys, I am not an artist, and I do not claim to be. I have no formal training. I guess I should say I'm not a professional. I just kind of do what looks good to my eye. And that's what you need to do. You just, see, now that doesn't look natural to me. This looks like it should have something swaying off of this side. This piece does not look natural. It feels to me that it needs to go this way, and it would grow and something would hang down. So we're going to move this, and we're going to go like that. And we're just going to find something that looks like it would naturally be there. Like this cluster right here, maybe? No, that's too big. And I don't want repetition. I wouldn't do this personally because that's not how that would grow, and it looks too placed, I think. So we're just going to find something that looks nice. Like this could be a little cluster, but when we need that, we'll reference that again. And like these little pieces, they don't look placed, okay? They look natural, and acorns grow a lot of times in little clusters of 2 or 3. And so maybe, and this one looks like it would curl down. So anyways, we're just going to play with this, and again, trying to create a center to work off of, and then life will get much easier as we go, I think. Being a little stingy with my clay. Okay, so I've made some more leaves. I've kind of reorganized my work area and changed this up a little bit, and we're just trying to create a focal point here. And so I am just embracing the process. Okay, this cannot be rushed. This is something, I've got little stems. These are just from these different leaves that I've broken off, and like I showed you this one, this is not, I didn't even make the whole leaf. It's just the stem. We need a center, and then we're going off from there. So these are not glued down. These are, again, this is just a layering, and I want to kind of take a mental kind of just a little picture in my mind here of what maybe we're going to do with this. And before we get over to the actual fireplace, You can take this as far as you want, guys. I have some little stems to work with. We can cover these up. Things don't have to be perfect. And I'm just kind of building my swag right now. And then we're just going to keep filling in. So here's my faux fireplace, and I have our mold pieces, and we're going to just kind of play around. I've been playing around with these a lot today. I'm going to insert some photos here. This was quite the process. Going into my kitchen workspace here, here's the horse and hound, and then we've got our oak leaves and acorns. And on the stovetop, we've got all of our mold here that's kind of put together. So I'm going to have to take this apart and do this in a backwards, you know, starting with what is flat on what I can glue on flat first. All I can suggest is take a lot of pictures, and this took time. I spent a good part of the afternoon and into the evening after dinner just playing around with these molds, and it was really a lovely, you know, kind of a quiet sit still activity during the busyness of the holiday here, which is starting to, you know, kind of rev up with being the first part of December. This is my glue. I'm going to glue this, attempt to glue this on, and I'll take pictures as I go, kind of show you the process of the gluing and what's going to happen to this project here, the progress. I also want to say this took one entire package of IOD clay. These were intended to just play around with my molds and, you know, see what I could come up with. And this is every little stem, every acorn, every bit of the clay got used, even if all I made was just a tiny little stem. Some of these did break off. So this is where we are. I'm just kind of fine tuning and going back and adding little bits. These are all loose here, and this looks like a haphazardly, you know, mess right now, but I am just going back and, you know, adding in some layers and just trying to make this look natural and organic and placed, but not too placed. And I'm just laying a few pieces and then going back and gluing them on once I like the placement. And I'm trying to get this piece over here, this side, to come out, and I just need a little bit more so that we're about even without being, you know, the same. And that's it. Okay, so I think we're going to call this being done. This is how much clay I have left. I used one whole pack in this. And as you can see, there's some extra molds up in this box up here that I did not use. And a little bit of mess over on the other side, but for the most part, I think this is looking done to me. These are layered 2 and 3 high in a lot of places, and again, it was these 2 molds that I really used, and you can see what parts of the mold I really used a lot. Just a few of the clusters. These little stems have been absolutely wonderful, and that's what all of my stems are, and just kind of going with it. And the best thing, I did a little bit of research looking at hand carved oak wood mantles, very little. I just looked a little and I thought, okay, I think the best thing I can say is just sit down and start playing with your molds, and don't try to rush the process. This took me 3 sessions. Today I was going to sit down for just like, you know, finishing a little section that looked a little bare over in this bottom right corner, and it turned into another session of a few hours. And not rushing it, and just working with the molds, and just letting these leaves speak to you and kind of follow the way that they drape and flow. And these molds are done so well. These are from Iron Orchid Designs, and the quality is unbelievable. These larger leaves, I did kind of try to cover them because these little ones are more my favorite. And last count, there, you know, I just wanted to add in more acorns. Last count, I think there were 50 acorns, and that just makes me so happy. And I just love this. Now, you guys, I have to decide if I'm going to paint it white or if I'm going to paint it in a custom color, and where it's going to be going. And we have some caulking to do. And again, this is made with scrap wood, and just fun that I can staple garlands on and things like that in my craft room. In our little garden house is where this is intended for. So I'm going to get out my paint, and this is ready to go. I'm going to prime the top with a Zinsser primer to cover the knots. This is just some wood that we purchased. My husband cut down the top and glued this all together out of scrap wood that we had. So I'm so excited. My legs are asleep. I've been sitting on the floor for, you know, quite 3.5 hours here. And this is the second pack of clay, and this is what's left. So just have fun with this process. Don't be intimidated by your molds. I have been, and I haven't done that many projects with these molds, you guys, and they're just great. So that's what I've got to say. And I am going to get out the paint, and I'll show you what this looks like. This is going to be very tedious painting, and, you know, kind of like delicate paint work in between all of this to make sure I get it all paint in there, but everything is really on. And okay, this one's still a little wet here, and everything else feels pretty attached. And this has been my work surface, and so I just need to go really scrub all the glue and clay off my hands. And this stuff is great. And a little bit of cornstarch here. I lost my brush. I started just dipping my clay into the cornstarch and kind of rolling it around in my hands, getting off the excess, and that worked really good for me. I didn't even need a brush. So another thing that may work for you once you get set up in your work area, if you can't find your paintbrush, you can dip that clay and roll it. So anyways, that's what I've got to show you. Okay, so we have some of our paint here, our fireplace. Okay, all of our molds, although we could paint on these while they're still wet, they are dry. It's been overnight. We have our paint, which we're using Benjamin Moore, an exterior high gloss in the color White Down. And this is going to match where it's going. There's a method to the madness. So anyway, this is White Down. This is some of that exterior Benjamin Moore paint. Our fireplace, faux fireplace. And here we have a 1-inch chip brush. I don't know what's going to work better. And then I've just got, this is just some brush that was in my stuff. I believe this is a watercolor brush, and I haven't quite got to the watercolor too much yet. So I'm using the brushes, and I have another set of watercolor brushes. And these were just cheap brushes, so I didn't pay a lot of money for these. But this looks like it's gonna get into all these little spots. So we're just gonna try and see what works. Hey guys, so I want to show you our fireplace all done up. Thank you for sticking it out here. I know this is a long one and I hope it's worth it, and I hope that this gives you the courage to do something that you've been thinking about, and you know you can do it. You just break it down a little at a time, and the layering, the you know just thinking about how things are in nature and the layering of the pieces, and just really just have fun with it. So thanks so much, and here's our fireplace.